So we've talked a little bit about the seven-phase process. How the four solo movies bring to one team-up movie. That's the phase one. It moves on to those having sequels, two more characters being introduced going into phase two, and when phase three happens, the trilogies are ended. Added on to four new trilogies that are created. Um, their solo movies, their initial runs, being parallel with the three as a passing of the torch thing. Right, we talked about that at length for seven phases. Now, something interesting that I started to kind of see the pattern of, not necessarily as it technically always is, but as a good rule kind of should be, is that, let's say the end of phase one, what separates the phases is not that there's a team-up movie and then that's it, but phase one needs to set up a new status quo so that in that team-up movie, by the end of it, the world is inherently different somehow. Maybe not to a huge degree, but to some degree, in general, it should be different. And then from there, the next four solo movies that show up, plus the other two, any of the solo movies that show up in the next phase before the next team-up movie are dealing with the things that come with that new status quo. For example, at the end of 2012's The Avengers, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, Black Widow, and Hawkeye team up with the help of Nick Fury, Phil Coulson, and Maria Hill, and team up together, fight off an alien race, and defeat Loki. Well, the world kind of is already operating that it's our world, but with a couple superheroes that are well known. But now the world knows that aliens exist, and not only do aliens exist, but now they know where we are, and there are some aliens that are intent on attacking us and conquering us. So Earth is in a new status quo at the end of Avengers, because now the entire world knows that we're not alone, and we're severely outgunned. So, in phase two, what should happen in all of the solo movies is reacting to that before changing the status quo again. There has to be some time where we react to that and see, how does that change the world? How does that build the world? And that's where we get Guardians of the Galaxy. We see just how far the universe reaches. That's where we get Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where we realize, hey, even our own systems of government that are trying to create preventative measures for that are flawed, and there's snakes within our government. All of these movies should react in some way to that. Now, for me, and for using this model, what should be the approach now is this. If I'm setting up a new status quo by the end of the phase one, here's how I'm going to do it. Phase one ends. The world now knows that we are not alone, and we're severely outgunned. For all of the solo movies, of which there would be 6, there's the 4. I did 7 fingers, meant 6. There's the 4 solos sequels, and then there's the 2 new ones that enter in. Of all of those solo movies, I need to come up with 6 different villains, because truly, in any movie, it's the villain that lays the groundwork for the conflict of the story, and then we follow our main character through solving that conflict. So the theme should always start with, what's the problem and how do we fix it? So what's our problem? Our big bad evil guy. How do we fix it? Well, that's what we go through our hero and see what his journey is like internally to help solve the external conflict. So the status quo change, we say, okay, the world and all of its governments discover that aliens exist and they plan on conquering us, and we have very little to say otherwise. So then how does the world change? And explore that. Explore, how does the world change? How do companies change? How do governments change? How does this affect the way people see superheroes? Do they see superheroes as our last line of defense, or do they blame the superheroes for bringing, that danger upon us? How does the world react? And when you explore that and explore all the different ways that the world can change, then you start to develop characters for that. So okay, how does the government react to this? Well, the government reacts by choosing to develop higher weapons, so they'll pay arms dealers more, which means more business for arms dealers. Not necessarily a good thing. Could be for the sake of defending our planet, but also for the sake of countries warring with one another anyway. Would not be good. It makes all of the countries of Earth band together and make a one world country that is hell-bent on protecting their planet. Then there's a power struggle. What's the power struggle look like, So, in that scenario, we have a power struggle. Maybe our main villain is one who might end up being fully in power. Someone struggling to be I'm the president of Earth. And this is what I'm going to do with it. And maybe we follow that, and maybe one of our heroes takes on that conflict. Now that's a grand scale conflict, but still, it's a possibility. Or the arms dealer, there's because of this new status quo, arms dealers are getting paid way more to start, getting advanced weaponry to the governments. But that means that they're in better business, and that's bad for the little guy. And so maybe more people are getting trampled on by, arms deals and arms trade happening. And one of our heroes deals with a conflict with that. So, new status quo creates new scenarios for the world, creates new villains, creates new stories for our heroes to embark upon. And ideally, each phase should do that. Each hero's trilogy is his or her own, and it should link together pretty well with their internal conflict and their personal journey. But the way they would all connect universally is new status quo, what does it mean? Team up. New status quo, what does it mean? Team up. New status quo, what does it mean? Team up. And so on and so forth. It's so cool. I've thought a lot about this. Hope you know. So, that's just something that I was muddling around in my brain thing, and wanted to share that with you. So, catch you later, bud.